Hello. Today is Friday, March 27th. I'm Cindy Allen, CEO of Trade Force Multiplier, a global trade consultancy service where we offer everything from high-level strategy to more technical, hands-on work like classification, risk reviews, answering questions from customs, as well as penalties or anything involving international trade. Welcome to Simply Trade Cindy's version, where I take a Taylor Swift song and base an international trade update on it. This podcast is brought to you in association with Global Training Center, and today's song is Evermore. I'll get to that in a moment. But first, what happened in trade this week? Well, quite a bit actually happened in trade this week, as per normal in this administration. We have a new sworn-in DHS secretary. His name is Mark Wayne Mullen. He is a former U.S. representative and very much a Trump loyalist from Oklahoma, closely aligned on issues. Some initial thoughts coming out, mostly on immigration, not so much on customs. So we will be watching to see how he performs and how involved he is on the customs side of things. We also have the cargo summit, trade and cargo summit that was put on by CBP has been postponed to September. It was supposed to happen next month, and CBP, due to the lack of funding, has postponed that to September. Same location in Dallas. If you've already been registered for that, they're going to transfer your registration. But if you have not, look for the instructions online via a CSMS or their announcement coming out. What else is happening in trade? Well, USMCA discussions are ongoing between Mexico and the U.S. to extend and or renew the current USMCA process. They're looking at a 3-year period where they want to have yearly extensions or renewals of this and the discussions of this. And this really will allow the kind of agreement to limp along for the next 4 to 10 years, really, because you can't extend that out to 10 years. Watch and see what happens with these negotiations. But the good thing is they are at the table and making some progress and talking about real issues. So that, I think, in this day and age is a good thing right now. Additional guidance came out this week, in the past 2 weeks, about steel and aluminum component valuation. As you know, this has been a very hot topic. There hasn't been clear guidance given. There are some challenges in court. CBP has been silent for the most part on this, but they did issue some somewhat confusing and contradictory guidance. And what I say is we don't really understand where this is going to go. We believe there are several methodologies that you can actually determine what the valuation is going to be. I think as an importer, exercising reasonable care, you need to speak with an attorney. Is your program and process defendable under the reasonable care standards moving forward in absence of specific guidance that is comprehensive and covers all of the different permutations of the valuation of steel, aluminum, and copper, specifically the component tariffs? The White House indicated again this week that the current Section 122 tariff set at 10% will be increased to 15%. We've not seen any details. We don't know when that's going to happen. We do know that the 150-day time limit that's set in statute continues to run. So will the 15% be raised within that 150 days? We don't know. Will the administration attempt to allow the current Section 122 action to lapse and reestablish a new Section 122 under 15%? We just don't know. We also have a question of legality. Can they do that? Can they allow that 150-day period to expire and then start another one? We aren't quite sure, and the statute doesn't really cover this, and because it hasn't been used, there's no case law to base this on. So if that happens, I expect a court challenge to occur, and we have expected for some time since the establishment of this Section 122 that it would be also challenged in court. We haven't seen anything filed to date, but I still have hope that something will happen in that regard. The possibility or the announcement of Section 301 and possible 232 cases are clearly outlined to replace the IEEPA revenue that's coming into the United States or was coming in until the Supreme Court ruled them illegal. The White House also messaged that those rates aren't locked in necessarily at the amount that they had announced, and that they continue to look forward to the entire investigation. And some of these are going to be subject to hearings. So we'll see how the public and the importing community react, specifically those who are going to make comments either in public at the hearing or in writing. On this Section 321, regarding other countries not fully enforcing forced labor or having protections in place, it's really uncertain how this justifies a 301 action. The 301 is really for unfair trade practices that negatively impact U.S. commerce. How another country is enforcing its own importation standards really is unclear how that could be linked really confidently to U.S. imports and how they're negatively affected, because we do have that additional forced labor requirement coming in here. So it's kind of like, does there need to be double layer protection? It really is focusing on how other countries treat their own importations. Do we have the authority? Does 301 expand to include that? I think if those come into play, we'll see a challenge to that as well. As of 1 p.m. Central Time today, no budget to fund DHS has been passed. However, the Senate did pass a measure. We haven't seen the full text of that measure yet, but news reports indicate that it does include funding for DHS, but maybe not CBP and definitely not for ICE. We haven't seen the text, so we'll have to see when that comes out what it actually says. We're not sure what the House is going to do. Is the House going to pass this as is legislation? The Senate has recessed and they have gone home for this term. They won't be back until mid-April after the holiday season. So we know that there is very little likelihood that the Senate measure will be revised in any way, shape, or form. And we don't know if the House will pass it as is, which is what's required to move this along. We also don't know if the president's going to sign it. He's given contradictory indications in the past week. He wants the full funding. He doesn't want the full funding. He wants TSA to be funded. We just don't know where it's going to go. The Strait of Hormuz, where much of the world's oil transits through, is still allowing restricted transit for those entities, some companies, some countries that have negotiated with Iran to have safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz has been occurring, although the strait is not fully open to all types of oil transport. And so that has created some issues, as you've seen in the news, the economic impact of oil being over $100 a barrel, and how that is impacting not just the steamship lines, but also any downstream users of that oil. On a related note, the FMC has denied a request from a few carriers to immediately increase rates due to the restrictions of oil transiting in the Strait of Hormuz. The FMC has ruled that basically, I think on a technicality, that the carriers who requested that immediate increase failed to meet the 30-day notification criteria, and requiring that these carriers do post that for 30 days before it can take effect. So that's kind of what's going on in the news today. On to the reason for the song Evermore. I want to specifically speak to the CAPE process, as everyone has been following the ongoing saga of the IEEPA refunds, and it's played out in the Court of International Trade and the declarations made by CBP and the process that's been outlined. I really thought the song Evermore explained the situation quite well. In the lyrics, Taylor Swift talks about, "I couldn't be sure. I had a feeling so peculiar that this pain would be forevermore." So I think those of us in the trade feel like this is just, the pain just keeps coming. We have new actions. We have overturned actions. We have actions that we have to take because of those actions were overturned. So we're in this just, I don't know, quagmire of continual process and continual pain, and it's going to last forever. And then in the song, she talks about the process of accepting and letting go. And she then writes, cannot not think all the cost and the things that will be lost. Oh, can we just get a pause? This is really where the trade is right now. We're at this point where we just want to pause. We want to pause. We don't want to have to react. We don't want to continually have to put new processes and new procedures in place. We want to fully digest what's going on in any one time. We want to work with the government to work through some of their challenges so that we all make sure that this process is going to be fully, vetted and fully outlined. And I think we all just need to take a deep breath. We all need to pause right now. I've seen lots and lots of webinars, lots of writings, lots of articles come out there. It's been wrote about in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and Reuters. Every major news outlet has addressed these IEEPA refunds, all of the trade press, all of the attorneys, everyone's speaking about it. I've done several webinars myself. We have clients calling all of the time. And I think that the only thing we can say is there are lots of open questions. That's all we do know. All we know right now is that CBP is working on a process. They've outlined the steps for that process at a very high level. Refunds will be automated. We know that. Refunds are going to be paid in bulk. They've outlined that. Refunds are going to be paid to the importer of record or the broker. We know that. We've talked about the complexity being a factor in the prioritization of that, and Brandon Lord from CBP, his declaration did address some of that. But what we don't know is much more expansive. We don't know when. We don't know what info is going to be required. We don't know the prioritization. We don't know the complexity. We don't know what's going to happen for each of the liquidation statuses. If it's not liquidated, that's pretty clear or finalized with CBP. That's called liquidation. If it's within 90 days, we believe the court said, well, you can reliquidate that under the 90-day statute. What happens between 90 and 100 days? And that 100-day process is the amount of time that an importer has to actually file a protest. What happens if it's beyond that period of the 90 days and then the further 90 days where CBP can't automatically reliquidate it, that an import has to be protested? And the court, in his filing, the judge indicated that, protests might be appropriate. Most attorneys are saying, if you're in the 180-day window, file a protest because that could be your avenue for a refund. But we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen for all the entries that have liquidated plus 180 days or finally liquidated, finalized with CBP. We don't know. Some of the indications are saying that the court expects all of the duty to be refunded, but then what is the administrative process to do that? Does the court just ignore that 100-day final liquidation? We don't know. We don't know how the process is fully going to be rolled out. We don't know if those refunds are going to have a limitation for the bulk. How many can you file? Can more than one broker be on the entries that an importer files? We don't know if it's going to be liquidated. Any unliquidated entry, is it just going to go through that 300 normal liquidation cycle and it's going to be finalized with the refund? Or is CBP going to speed up those liquidations? We don't know. So I think everyone just needs to take a pause and really look at the ending of the Evermore song, which says that Taylor outlines that she has a particular feeling that the pain won't be forevermore. So we have something to look forward to. We'll talk to you next week.